Hello and welcome to Soul Sensations. Today I am chatting with the youngest of a brilliant R&B group, Sister Sledge, Miss Kathy Sledge. Hello, Kathy.
Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm great. I'm glad we finally got together to have this interview. It's been months in the making, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It has, and I know we missed each other last week, but that makes it all the better.
It does, yes. Well, I tell you what, we're going to go straight in with it. And one of the questions I've got here is actually not from me, but it was from one of our listeners. And it is this. Okay. Where were you actually born?
I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, of course, the United States. And, Philly born.
Philly born. So do you want to tell our listeners about some background on your parents and your grandparents? Because I know they're very musical.
Yes, my grandmother was an opera singer, and she was a protege to Mary McLeod Bethune, activist, and also my father was one of the first black tap dancers on Broadway. He was an entertainer. Entertainment and music has always been in our family. My mother was our manager and had the more business side of it as far as teaching us the ropes through business. We all graduated through Temple University, so we learned the business aspect of it as well. And music was just something that we always did. Always, I thought when I was 4 years old, we always harmonized. I thought everyone could harmonize. So it's interesting. It's always been a fabric in our life and growing up.
So who were your inspirations for music when you were a child?
I loved Mavis Staples, still do, Gladys Knight. A lot of my influences, some of the ad-lib of We Are Family, learning through Mavis and Gladys and Diana Ross. I always, you would learn from different artists. Like Diana Ross, I always appreciated her clarity with her voice, and with Mavis, her soul, and with Gladys, just all of the above. I think Aretha Franklin as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I would say a lot of soul singers, and then there's a whole other influence, jazz musicians. I love Billie Holiday. In fact, I'm doing a production about Billie Holiday now. But so I think a collective resource of just amazing artists. Stevie Wonder, forget about it. I love Stevie. Anything he writes, anything he sings. Yeah.
So you guys know this. When you and your sister were young, right, did you use the old hairbrush in the mirror to do the practicing or not?
I have definitely we did the hairbrush thing, They make perfect microphones. And my sister Carol, who never really was a huge part of the group, she was what Dick Clark used to refer to her as the closet sister, because whenever a sister was on maternity leave, Carol would jump in and take their place. But Carol, what people don't know is she was one of the, I think, biggest influences of us wanting to be like the Supremes. We would be her background singers in the mirror, and she would do the lead songs, songs from the 60s, because, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, but songs like songs by the Marvelettes and the Supremes and the Jackson 5, and
It's all good stuff. It's all great music. So in what year did you and your sisters actually form Sister Sledge, and how did it come about?
Well, we'd always been singing from an early age at different functions. Sometimes it would be for our grandmother. She would have through her church, or sometimes it would be through the school, talent shows, anywhere. But then it turned professional when we actually were being requested and being paid to sing. That's the difference. And so we would, through the years, I think we started establishing ourselves as a local group that had a really good show and very entertaining. And even our name wasn't a plan. The DJ or the masters of ceremony had a bit too much to drink one night, and Carol was with us, and he introduced us backwards. We were always the Sledge sisters, and he introduces us Sister Sledge, and Carol was like, "Hey, that's kind of cool. Keep it." So, we always, everything was serendipitous. It just would happen, and we would follow through.
So how did you get your first record deal? Did the producer approach you, or how did that come about?
Yeah, even with that, the early days with Tom Bell and Linda Creed, oh my gosh, amazing songwriters. But, and Tom Bell's younger brother, Tony Bell, had a production deal with Phil Hurt, who was well known for most of the Spinners hits, and very great songwriters individually and collectively. And Phil and Tony wanted to submit a production deal to the then Atco record company, and we were the artists that sang their songs. And from that production deal, our first record became number one in the UK. I was 14 years old. It's called Mama Never Told Me. And so it just launched, Steve. From that point on, we would have these really big records in other countries all over the world. We had Pain Reliever with Bert DeCuto, and then we had just songs that really started being very, very huge hits in other territories around the world. Very quiet domestically in the United States. We didn't have a hit yet. And by the time I recorded with my sisters, We Are Family, I was 16 years old. I thought I was about to stop singing because I felt a little frustration. I felt like, well, we have these hits in other countries, and that's amazing. Yeah. I wish we could have a hit in our own country, and we finally did with We Are Family.
Yeah, so you obviously started the other way along, really. So you were a hit big style in Europe and the rest of the world, and you didn't hit the States until afterwards, which is a bit of a
That's right.
for some singers, yeah. So did you
really cool.
and your sorry?
Yeah, I said that was really cool the way it all happened.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you or your sisters write your own material or try to write some material, or was it always penned for you?
Well, no, we definitely write, especially me. I do a lot of songwriting that landed on some of the projects throughout the years, like a song called Smile I wrote with my husband, Philip Lightfoot. And Smile made some really strong noise over there in the UK. It was a record that George Duke produced. Then I had a song Narada Michael Walden produced called Music Makes Me Feel Good. So what was so cool about writing for my sisters and myself is I would always get a chance to I would collaborate sometimes with my husband, sometimes with other writers, but then we would get a chance to have other producers do their own rendition of it and produce it the way they hear it. And that I love, because I believe a songwriter can get very close to their songs, and then you give it to other writers, and they take it to another place, which is, So I definitely love writing. I still do. We'll talk about the new stuff soon.
I was going to say, we'll have a chat about your new little ventures in the second part of the interview.
Okay.
Now, here's one for you. Whilst on tour as Sister Sledge, do you have a funny story that you would like to share with our listeners? Now, I ask this to all of my interviewees. It could be anything at all. If you're on stage with somebody or something silly happened or something funny happened, do you have a little story that you'd like to share, or are they all secret?
Let me think. A funny story.
Yeah.
Well, one I've never heard. Of course, there's always the one where the limo driver, we were late for a concert, and our car just never arrived. And there was one limo driver, and he was just waiting. And now we're really late. This was for Radio City Hall in New York. And finally, we asked the driver, who was he waiting for? He said, well, I'm not waiting for a singer. I'm waiting for a nun. And, the rest you can figure out. But we were almost late for our concert because he was looking for a nun, Sister Sledge. And it was a group. And so, that was kind of a funny story. It wasn't funny while it was happening. There was a lot of anxiety because we almost missed our show. But that was a fun one.
How late were you? Excuse me. How late were you for the show?
Let's just say we barely made it on stage, but we were on time. But we we had to run on stage. But that was a close call. But then there are other funny moments. I remember once when the early days with the sisters, where my our microphones, one microphone toppled over with a stand, and it was a domino effect, and they all just so we would have funny stories like that as sisters. But you get through it, and it's what makes great. It's what makes great memories too. So.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Paul might be able to remind me. I think it was Archie Bell I was interviewing the other day, and I think one of the drills jumped up on stage and fell through the stage, went straight through the bottom. And then
oh my God!
Walked around, and everybody thought it was part of the act. So
that's the art of a great. That's the art of a great entertainer, and Archie Bell and the Drells, they've always been amazing entertainers. Their energy's crazy. Yeah.
Now, I've got a question for you. I know how pop stars feel when they get the first phone call to appear on, what used to be Top of the Pops, now it's all finished with. How did you feel, and how did the sisters feel when you got the phone call to appear on Soul Train back in the 70s?
Oh my gosh, Soul Train is such an institution growing up, as a kid, and so that was like, receiving a Grammy when we got to Soul Train. And then, Don Cornelius, I have to say, had to be one of the smoothest hosts ever. So not only were you excited about being on Soul Train, but you were excited to actually have a conversation with Don Cornelius, Don Cornelius. So he's, he established the institution back then, and he made a mark in history. So, I felt like we were able to be a part of that historical and landmark of a show. And I think it always will be that to people that know Soul Train.
Oh, it'll never be forgotten. It'll always be there. It'll always be there.
Yeah, right.
Although you were one of the although you were the youngest of the sisters, is it true that you sang lead on all of your biggest hits?
Yeah, for most of them. I still am the youngest. Yeah, definitely. And what was interesting is I got a chance to learn as I grew up singing these songs. I really did. I think I meet people now, and I always say, they say, well, you're a legend. I'm like, well, thanks. That's a huge compliment to be a legend. Sometimes I say, I feel like the world's youngest legend. It's like, that's really cool to be called a legend. I think what I learned is I actually did grow up singing these songs, certain hits. If it's, Mama Never Told Me when I was 14, to We Are Family, of course, when I was 16, and Frankie when I was, 20. And so, I think what you learn, though, is you really learn through the producers. Because, again, each producer brings something different to the feast. I always look at songs, when a producer gives you a song to sing, I look at them as if it's a script. Because you are actually singing, if it's a love song, if it's a dance song, there's a certain kind of nuance or feeling that you have with those lyrics. And I learned also to really listen to producers. A lot of times we want to get in there as artists and interpret it how we want to, and that's great because you add to the song. But I've also learned that the reason there's a producer there, like let's say, for instance, Quincy with Michael, oh my gosh, they bring out so many things that we don't hear as an artist. And so it's always exciting to grow, it's always been exciting to grow up with different producers and sing all these different hits. It's always a learning experience, Steve. You never stop learning.
It's also a learning curve. So here's a good one for you. With you being sisters, was there ever any argument about who did what, when and where, either in the studio or when you were on tour?
Oh my gosh, I think the question should be, was there ever not an argument? That's just the truth. We're women and we're sisters, and of course we have our differences, and we still butt heads with things. But at the end of the day, you are family. You do realize that you have to sort out your differences, and we have our challenges like any other family. And I think we have a triple whammy challenge because we're in a business together, which is always hard with family businesses. Yes. We're women, we're sisters. We're going to have our dynamic with that. And then we also have the challenge that we stand for a song that is family. So, you've got that magnifying glass over you all the time. Where you have to feel like you're the Waltons or something, But in the end, I do think that you get through it.
Yeah.
And you learn,
You work it.
You do. You have to. We're going through some challenging things now, but I know we'll get through it. That's always the promise.
Well, what we're going to do now, Kathy, is we're going to have a little break. We're going to play some of your music, and then we'll come back in around about 15 minutes' time. Is that okay with you?
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Okay.
I'll speak to you soon.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Hello, and welcome back to part 2 of our exclusive interview with Miss Kathy Sledge. Hello, Kathy.
Hello. How are you?
I'm great. Right. Now, we've talked about your past. Let's talk about maybe up to date a little bit further, but we're going to start with a little question that I've got from something I read about 1997. Would you like to tell our listeners about your music collaboration with the dance producer Robert Miles?
Sure. Robert Miles, people from his management company contacted me and they said, he had done some really cool things with the X-Files and the music. And I said, I love the whole electronic sound. It was then. And he submitted the song Free, and I loved Free. And I felt I would love to sing that. I do a lot of dance, belting music, singing out. We Your Family, I get to belt out, which I love. But I also realized that I didn't get a chance, and I'm going to do much more of that now because I get a lot of requests to sing some really cool, mellow groove songs like Free. Yeah. When he brought it to me, I loved it. I loved our collaboration, and I felt like it opened another realm of music for listeners with my voice, and I love that.
That took you on to, for a few years then, you did various different things, but I hope I get this right. In 2011, you released a track on Universal Records called Give Yourself Up, and then in September 2013, you were the very first signing of the new Pacific Electronic Music label. Does that mean you're going to be releasing more tracks?
I'll tell you what's going on, and it's interesting. I am definitely, but more, Steve, in all genres of music. And sadly enough, when we lost Prince, it was so sudden. What I admired about Prince more than anything is he always was creating music. He always was writing and creating music. He's left like a plethora of music for us to listen to, even though he's not here anymore. It's just catalogs and catalogs of things. Yeah. And it made me say, as a writer and as a singer, tomorrow's not promised. So it made me really, I would always get requests to do all kinds of music, jazz music. I feel blessed that I can do all kinds of music. And I feel blessed that there is a market out there that wants to hear me do not just dance music, but groove songs like Free that I did with Robert Miles, or jazz music. So now I'm in the studio working on some jazz projects with some amazing artists. I talked to the jazz legend Stanley Clarke. And so we're talking, and we talk about collaborating. He actually gave me the biggest compliment ever. He said that I had one of the greatest jazz voices that he's ever heard in a long time. And I'm like, wow. I feel like these are things that we all say we want to do, but you got to really do it. And so I'm at a place in my life where I'm enjoying producing shows, live shows. One's about Billie Holiday, and working and collaborating with artists like Pacific electronic music, which is dance, of course, all the way to jazz with Stanley Clarke, or with my husband Phil Lightfoot, or and now I just am collaborating with Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam. We're writing a song together. I love their tracks. I've always wanted to write with them, and not so long ago, Jimmy Jam sent me a track, and he said, this is a track that I know can be referenced my voice as a sledge smash. And I'm like, wow, what a compliment. So now I'm writing with them. I'm here in LA, and it's Grammy week, and I ran into Mary J. Blige the other night, and she gave me the hugest compliment ever. She goes, I love your voice. And I was like, wow, thank you so much. So I think about different collaborations with different artists that maybe some of different our fans out there would love to hear. And I'm at a place where I think I'm just rolling up my sleeves and just feeling and doing music that I love. And it's been falling in all different genres of music, be it dance or jazz or groove. And I love that. I'm at a good place with it.
So you're actually going to be doing more production now than singing, is that correct?
Well, I definitely will be doing singing. I'll just be collaborating with different producers, but I'm definitely singing. I love singing, and I feel too that when you get to a certain place in your life, you do what you love, especially when you realize it's a gift. And I have to be honest, I never realized that my voice was special coming up, and I hear that more and more, and I'm like, wow, because it's just your voice. You don't see it as anything different but your voice. But I'm embracing the fact that, when God gives you a gift, you better use it. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited at the place I am now to do new music and always perform the hits that we know and love. I'm working on another project to bring to the UK, and it should be very soon now, and to Europe. And it's my Sister Sledge storybook. Basically I get to sit there and sing every song that you've heard growing up. And I get a chance to sing these songs and thank the fans for supporting them through the years and kind of just tell the story. So I'm very excited about that. It's another production I'm producing now. And it's all
let me know about that one.
I will.
Let me know about that one.
Yeah, and I think I would love to do it up close and personal. Like I'm looking into venues that are you can be sitting right there and say, Kathy, can you please sing whatever, and I can, we're in the living room.
There has been artists that have actually done that in this country, and there's venues all over the place where it's it's not massive. You're just sitting there, and you relax. It's maybe the capacity of maybe 200 or 300 people, and
that's what I love.
Down there, and that's just
I literally just talked to my agent. I talked to my agent, and I said, I want to be able to just sit there and say, what do you want to hear? Sing the beginning of and just have you sing along with me. Because I think what happens is it takes you there, or if you hear a little bit of smile, it'll make you feel better. You go, wow, I remember what I was doing when that song was out. And I think when I started producing the show, I realized, wow, this is it's like opening up my journal. And it's the Sister Sledge storybook of walking through these pages of our lives with these songs. So I'm very, very excited about it. Who knows, it might end up being a one-woman show in the West End. I don't know. But, I'm excited about being able to walk through these songs and share the memories. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to that one. I am looking forward to that one. Now, we touched on it slightly before. Do you want to tell us more about this production that you're doing for Billie Holiday? Is it the actual Billie Holiday story, or what exactly are you doing?
Well, the Billie Holiday story is called The Brighter Side of Day. And and it, I have been doing Billie Holiday since my early Vegas days with my sisters. And I always, can you hold for? I always would, even though people say I bring Billie to life, I always would want to do her in a way that she'd be proud. And so I thought, what would it be like if we could step back in time, and there's Billy, and there's Max Roach on the drums, and there's Bud Powell on the piano, and Louis Jordan and the timpani five on the horns. So what I did see this, the show Brighter Side of Day, because they called her Lady Day, is we just propel you to the 40s. And the horn section, by the way, that I use, they're called the chops, and they play all the melodies from the 40s. They really are Alicia Keys' horn section and Sting's horn section. And these guys are amazing, And so it's so cool because we get a chance to just take you there. The first half of the show is music that we love, Dizzy Gillespie, the 40s. But then the second half of the show, I literally go into character as if you're at a Billie Holiday concert. And, of course, it's the blues because you can't do Billie without the blues, but it's Billie at her best. It's, we know the heavy story. We know the drugs. We know the alcohol. But how do you want to be remembered for your best? And so Brighter Side of Day is Billie at her most gorgeous moment in her life. And you get a chance to experience what it's like to be propelled into the 40s at Billie's concert. And so, I'm very excited about it. So it's definitely coming there too. I'll talk about that when I do when we do the Sister Sledge Storybook Tour. I will talk about Billie Holiday too, because that's a huge part of my life. And I'll give a little excerpt of that when I put the production out there.
So, right, now we've covered that a little bit. Have you any concerts or public appearances lined up in the future, just as you, or is it all going to be all this production work with Billie Holiday and the other various productions that you are doing?
I do. Actually, we're meeting with agents now. My company is, and, some of these productions have really been getting a lot of attention. And so now we are putting together tours. So just stay tuned. I love Facebook for that matter. I love to be able to reach out directly to everyone who's interested. And you can reach me, of course, on social media. I always answer. I love the fact that I can actually know what we want to hear. I remember once I did a show here in the United States and was intimate. And I literally had my friends from Facebook write the show. I was like, what are you going to hear? And, there were hits. So I literally, and people showed up, like names that they would come out and they'd hear what they wanted to hear. And I think it makes it so special when we can do these things now and take advantage of it. But to answer your question, you will definitely be seeing more of the Brighter Side of Day production and the Kathy Sledge, Sister Sledge Storybook tour. And I'm definitely going to have them in intimate settings. I think a fan came up to me once because, my sisters, they, of course, still tour. A fan came up to me once. He says, I appreciate all the touring, but where do I go when I want to hear these songs the way I know and love them? And it just really made me think, wow, I guess I'm obligated to put this out from my heart because where do we go? And it really gave me the incentive to say, well, let's do this. Now you can hear these songs. And I get a lot of joy singing them, and I get a lot of fulfillment when I know they're appreciated.
Yeah. Well, you just touched on the next question there, because what I was going to say was, do you have any websites or social media pages that fans new and old can follow you on? So you've got Facebook. Is there anywhere else that people can get in touch?
I'll jump out on Instagram. I always love to hear what people are saying about the music. Of course, there's Facebook. And I have 2 Facebook pages. One is of course, Verified Sledge, and then there's another one. So then there's my concert series, by the way, is called My Sisters and Me, where I get to invite other sisters in song to just sing all their hits. And so just keep listening out. There people do ask, will I ever do any reuniting with the sisters, with my blood sisters? You never say never. I do think that we are at a place in our lives where people have to realize we have been singing all of our lives, and it's okay to grow. It's okay to branch out. I do think that, I think that, again, you never say never, but there's a lot more to tell individually and collectively, and God willing, we get a chance to do that.
Yes. So finally, is there any people you would like to mention or thank whilst you're on air with me now?
I think the first thing that comes to mind, Steve, is just a huge thank you to everyone out there listening, honestly, and sincerely. I think, I never take it for granted when people come out and support you and love your music and buy your music. And I think that I just want to say thanks to all the listeners